Hey, thanks for joining us today. On this Monday afternoon, I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we are tracking a warm up across most of the U.S. and then a big cool down later on this week and into the weekend. We have several chances for some winter weather coming in here, but I think the big question is, where did the storms go? We had storms for several days last week, 4 days in a row with a severe weather risk. However, this week is looking a lot calmer, and we'll talk about why that is. Severe weather taking a pause. I'm calling this a severe weather shutdown because it seemed like after Saturday, everything just kind of shut down severe weather-wise. Across the U.S., the temperatures are divided. It's a lot warmer in some places and cooler in others, especially as we get into the middle of the week. We'll really see that divide. And then we have two chances for snow and ice. Hey, we've got snow as in like a snow cone, S-N-O. No W on there. No, we do have the chance for snow, that four-letter word, that S word. We'll talk about that here in just a few minutes as well. But let's recap what we saw this weekend. Did you see the storms down in Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia? We talked about that on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday of last week, and that's exactly what we saw. We had several tornado reports across Mississippi early in the morning. That second round of storms came later on that evening. We had some strong winds as well as some lightning and thunder with this as well, but the hail risk overall was very, very low. It was mainly that wind and that tornado risk that we saw on Saturday. By Sunday, that's when the shutdown started. No more severe weather after that. On Monday, pretty quiet out there, and we remain very quiet this afternoon. You can see that we've got a little bit of snow up in the northern portion of New York, some showers down in the southern side of Texas. Other than that, pretty quiet. And as always, we talk about the entire U.S., so comment where you're watching from, and we'll tailor this forecast to wherever you are across the U.S. 57 in Oklahoma City today, warmer than yesterday. 56 in Denver, 47 in Kansas City. If you have not taken down your Christmas lights quite yet, this could be a very good week to do that, especially the very beginning of the week. And let me tell you why. Why are we seeing this drastic warm up, 10, 20, 30 degrees above average for this time of the year? All of that thanks to this high pressure system that's sitting out to the west. It's controlling the weather for most of the 48 right now. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to see an intrusion of cold air coming in from this low pressure system. We've got that by the middle of the week, but we've got another one as we head into the end of the week, and that will split the U.S. in half. And then we'll have a cold side of the U.S. and we'll have a warm side of the U.S. And we'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But in terms of severe weather, oftentimes when we see these big changes, we'll get some sort of severe weather. What's happening is we don't have that moisture coming up from the Gulf. So we are at a lack of severe weather today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Your chance for hail, very, very low. Mind your dash TV, Missouri, St. Louis area watching right now. Thanks for joining us from St. Louis. St. Louis, no chance for hail. What about rain? Can we see any rain in St. Louis? Let's check this out. The first chance for wet weather, that is going to come from mainly the Midwest. St. Louis, you may be just on the far south side of this, and you may miss that chance for wet weather. We've got wintry weather through places like Chicago, Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio. I know we've always got people watching from Ohio on here. Maybe a little bit of rain moving through St. Louis by early Wednesday morning. This could bring some sprinkles actually as far south as Oklahoma. Arkansas bringing in that rain as well. The rain accumulation here is not going to be that much. You're not going to see a ton in terms of accumulating rainfall. You will see a decent amount of snow all the way up through the Midwest, maybe a little bit of ice mixing in here as well across the Appalachians, and then you've got more of that rain down to the south. Now, one little note here, I don't know if you saw this or not, but we saw a little bit of snow trying to move into the northern portion of Alabama and Georgia. Do you think we'll get snow down here? I think it's wildly questionable. I do not think that we're going to get a ton of snow in this area, even though we did see snow in this area last January. I don't think that that'll be what we see here. However, we are going to see a blast of cold air in this area. Your temperatures are going to be very, very bitterly cold as we head into the middle and end of this week, and we'll talk about how cold here in just a few minutes. We have another chance for snow coming our way by the end of this week, maybe bringing a few flurries across the northern portion of Oklahoma and southern side of Kansas, and then we've got more snow farther up to the north. So we're split here. With these spring-like temperatures, very, very dry conditions, and then winter weather. People get either one or the other. You can identify the dry side of the U.S. Across the west, it's dry and it's warm, but you go farther to the east, and that's where you have all of that rain. I know St. Louis is watching, so I'll go ahead and pinpoint you guys here. Again, your accumulation's not that impressive. I think at max, you could see 1/4 to maybe 3/10 of an inch of rain across St. Louis. We need more than that. We're in a drought across most of the central portion of the U.S. right now. We absolutely need more rain, and unfortunately, we're not going to get that. But you know what we are going to get? We're going to get some strong winds from these colder temperatures coming through, and that's going to increase the fire danger. Hey, thanks for joining us in Nashville, Tennessee today. Hey, our models earlier, they tried to give you guys snow, but I don't think it's very promising. Don't trust everything that you see from the models. Make sure that you are getting your information from a meteorologist as well, because snow in Nashville, I think it's going to be a low chance. But you do have colder temperatures coming to Nashville. We'll talk about how cold. Let's talk about the snow. Ooh, you guys are right on the edge down in Nashville. If you go a little bit farther to the east, going to some of those mountainous regions, you're going to get more snow. However, I told you, your accumulations in Nashville are not going to look too impressive. Alrighty, let's move on here. That was your snow accumulation. Ice, you could see a little bit of ice across the Appalachians as well. Moving on, I'm going to fast forward because I want to get to your temperatures. It's a really, really big story that we have is that warmer air out to the west, cooler across the east. Temperatures are going to drop down into the 20s and 30s as we head into the middle and end of the work week. Watch this colder air. This is going to be right through the Midwest and maybe as far south as Memphis, Tennessee through the middle of the week. You can see those purples and those blues really starting to move in here. 14 degrees in Minneapolis, 29 in St. Louis, 19 degrees in St. Louis by early Thursday morning. We've got 25 degrees on early Thursday morning in Memphis. I'm not going to name all of the numbers here, but you can see there's your cold air. You go further to the west, warmer air. To the east, cooler air. The U.S. divided here. So what does this mean? Well, you've got a small chance for snow. You've absolutely got some colder air coming in. It finally feels like December, or January. Sorry, it's January. Ozzy Thompson is saying hello from South Korea. Thank you. Hello, Taylor Cox and HailTrace team. Thanks, we appreciate you guys joining us today. And we've got Toronto, Canada as well. Thanks. Yeah, you guys are a lot colder up in Canada, a lot colder than we are here in the U.S. I like the warmer weather. Some people are ready for this January weather. We were just talking earlier how it just has not felt like that. Actually, in Oklahoma, it is the warmest January on record. And I know that we're only like 12 days into the month, but right now it is the warmest January on record. It does look like it's going to get a little bit cooler if you are in central to the southern portion of the U.S., Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, Texas. You are going to see those cooler temperatures by this weekend. You can see that we drop right about freezing, if not just shortly above freezing by Saturday, and Saturday afternoon looks cold as well in the 30s. So I talked about the U.S. divided. Warmer out to the west, cooler here in the central and eastern portion of the U.S. by the middle of the week. It's going to bring in a few chances for snow, a little bit of ice possible there as well. That's going to last through the weekend. And actually, it could last all the way through the middle of next week. Here we are, January 17th through the 21st, and we keep this divided temperature map in place. So again, cooler out to the east, warmer to the west, some people feeling winter, some people feeling spring-like temperatures. Everyone with a lack of rain, a lack of snow for this time of the year. We've got those browns across the entire map here, basically meaning that we are at a very good chance for drier than normal conditions. What does that mean? I mentioned this earlier, fire risk. A fire risk is increasing for a good portion of the central portion of the U.S. Now we're going to continue to talk about the rest of January and into February as well, but I first want to get out to meteorologist Michaela Smith, who has broke down a shift that we are seeing in the weather. We are shifting from an El Nino. We are in that transition phase right now. So Michaela, tell us about where we've been and where we're going.
Thank you, Taylor. We are transitioning out of La Nina and getting ready to go into a more neutral phase before we transition to El Nino. The Climate Prediction Center has given us a 75% chance to see that change happening within the next 3 months. But what exactly does that mean for the rest of winter and this upcoming spring? Well, here's their actual forecast. You can see the December, January, and February keeps the La Nina probability high. But as soon as you go to January, February, and March, that's that next one, the La Nina probability starts to go down and that neutral starts to go up. But by the next month, when we're talking about February, March, and April, you see that neutral transition shoot up to the top, and we also see the drop in La Nina, but El Nino also stays very low. So again, the Climate Prediction Center has said we're going to be seeing this transition within the next 3 months, but how it's looking, it really looks likely between February and March. That's really when we'll drop the La Nina conditions and start to see more of those neutral conditions across the U.S. Now, even though El Nino is staying on the lower side, if we were to see a quick transition, what would that look like for the rest of winter? Well, it's basically the opposite of what the forecast currently was. Conditions to the north start to become a little bit warmer. Things start to get a little bit wetter to the south. So it's really a pivot from what we've been seeing. It's been cold and wet to the north recently and very dry to the south. So it's starting to indicate that we could see a little bit of moisture returning to areas in the south. But that would be wintertime conditions. Again, we're expecting to see more of that transition happening in the spring. So the Climate Prediction Center has already issued what they expect for their forecast for temperatures for March, April, and May. And you can see we're expecting warmer than average conditions to continue for areas to the south. And along with that, we have the precipitation outlook for March, April, and May. Two things that I really want to point out here. The first being is that where those drier than average conditions are setting up back more towards the west, those have been areas that have seen a ton of rainfall this winter because of wetter than average conditions. So that's probably going to be a good thing that things are starting to dry out. But an area that is trending still wetter than normal is by the Great Lakes. And they've already seen a ton of moisture, especially in December, just round after round of snowstorms. So they're continuing to trend heading into the spring with seeing a little bit more moisture. And one more interesting thing to highlight is that a lot of the U.S. is going to be in more of these neutral conditions, meaning that sometimes we'll see quite a bit of moisture, other times things are going to look pretty dry. But a lot of these areas that at least the precipitation-wise is trending more neutral, those are areas that are trending warmer than average, so that means at least it looks like there could be a few chances for quite a few spring thunderstorms happening across parts of the plains. Now, one final thing to consider is it looks like we will be well into El Nino conditions by the time we get to the summer. So how will that impact our hurricane forecast? Well, it will be a little bit different than last year because the areas that we typically look at in the Atlantic during El Nino seasons typically see less active hurricane seasons because there's more wind shear in those areas. Now, that's not saying there will not be any hurricanes this upcoming season, but it will be something worth watching to see when we officially enter El Nino conditions for sure, when that neutral transition finishes happening, and then at that time what that will look like either in late summer or into the early fall, and how that will impact the upcoming hurricane season. Taylor, I know we just talked about a lot of information, but I feel like these weather patterns truly are so cool, these transitions from La Nina to neutral to El Nino, because they are what drive our weather. We get to see different winter climate patterns, spring climate patterns. It impacts our hurricane season. So I think it's fascinating to see how quickly we're going away from La Nina into El Nino. What do you think, kind of after talking about some stuff, what do you think that's going to be like to impact some of our spring, or how are you feeling about that maybe impacting our hurricane season a little bit later on?
Great reporting, Michaela. Thank you so much for that. I mean, it's a great idea to get a look at what we expect for the rest of January, February, March, April, and those ocean temperatures that Michaela explained, warmer than average, cooler than average, have a great impact on the rest of the U.S. Now, HailTrace is working very, very hard to have your hail forecast ready for the Raising Hail Tour. So as always, if you want to see a bigger breakdown than just what Michaela did right there, we have over 10, 15 meteorologists working on this hail forecast. Head to HailTrace.com, click on the Raising Hail Tour tab at the very top of the screen, and you can get registered to join us at the Raising Hail Tour. But I do want to go ahead and go over a few things that Michaela had mentioned here. We, of course, appreciate everyone watching Flax Trav on here. We have been social media friends for years, Flaxtrav, ever since KSN back in Wichita. Now, Kansas, if you can see right here, Kansas is staying about average for your temperatures and about average for your rainfall as well. Kansas is having a very average January. Let's go from January into March here. We are starting the spring on a warm note for most of us. You can see that it's a little bit warmer down to the south from January into February and March, but drier as well. So Michaela kind of hinted at this in her reporting. What she said was, of course, as we transition from these different oscillations, we'll see some changes in our weather. So what this tells me right here is warmer than average. Hey, one of those ingredients for storms is heat. We have that. But another ingredient is wet weather. Another ingredient is moisture. And it just does not look like we're going to have that moisture. So that could impact your storm season. We'll have to see what happens, but of course HailTrace will be tracking that for you, and we're going to continue to do our research to see what the hail forecast will be for this year. What's the tornado forecast look like? And then we'll report back to you on that. So if you want to be the first to see that, head over to HailTrace.com, click the Raising Hail Tour tab at the very upper right-hand corner of the screen, and then join us for the Raising Hail Tour. In the meantime, make sure that you follow us on social media. Follow us at Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, or give us a call for a hail, tornado, or wind map at 855-334-4245. I know that we have some roofers on here. Here we go. Triple J Roofing. Thanks for joining us. Now, is that the Triple J that's out of Shakota, Oklahoma, or is that the one that's out of Georgia? I know there's at least 2 Triple J's. You let me know where you're watching from. And we've got MJ Cleveland as well saying loves HailTrace as well. Are you guys going to be at the IRE next week? HailTrace will be there. We'll be in a big booth. I think it's right in the middle of the conference center. Come say hi to us. We'll take a picture. We'll tag you on social media as well. Triple J in Macon, Georgia. Okay, Macon, Georgia, Triple J Roofing, Jacob and James watching. Well, thanks for watching, you guys. Come see us at IRE or come see us at the Raising Hail Tour. Give us a call for more information on our hail, wind, and tornado maps at 855-334-4245 or email us at info@hailtrace.com. Head over to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information. Happy Monday. We'll see you back here, same time, same place for your forecast tomorrow.